morning. You can do better than that. Good morning. I know it's a dark, rainy day in Ohio, but it's just another great day in the state of Ohio. Good morning. My name is Morakin Okuti. I am the interim dean for the College of Engineering, Science, Technology, and Agriculture, and the director of the 1890 land grant programs. We want to welcome you to our university on this momentous occasion. I was talking to Chief Crosby earlier on this morning, and every time he comes to our campus, it's always good. So without further ado, I'm going to call on Dr. Jack Thomas, the Knight President of Central State University, to bring welcome remarks and tell you about why we're here today. Dr. Thomas.
Good morning. On behalf of the administration, faculty, staff, and students, and the university community, I welcome you to Central State University. I especially want to thank you for coming out in this, good weather, as we could say, a rainy fall day here at Central State University. And I also want to extend a special welcome to Chief Terry Cosby and members of the Natural Resources Conservation Services. Let's give them a round of applause for being here this morning. We're excited to partner with the United States Department of Agriculture in this effort to promote climate-smart commodities. As Ohio's only public, historically black university and Ohio's only 1890 land-grant university, Central State University's goal is to improve the lives of citizens through evidence-based research and our cooperative extension services. Our project, entitled Developing Climate-Smart Agriculture and Market Amongst Socially Disadvantaged, Limited Resource, and Urban Farmers in Ohio and Michigan, aims to ensure that underrepresented groups and small farmers participate in the expansion of markets for America's climate-smart commodities and learn how to practice climate-smart farming that provide direct, meaningful benefits to agriculture production. Though climate-smart agriculture research and outreach is at the forefront of the USDA priorities, the unfortunate fact is that socially disadvantaged farmers are frequently the last adopters of advanced technologies. And let me say that I grew up on a small farm in the great state of Alabama, in Lowndes County, Alabama, which is a very rural place. And my parents, as well as others, they were farmers. And believe it or not, I was a farmer. And so I tell you that to say that I understand the disadvantage just that farmers have as well as others, and we're the last to get what we need as farmers. But I wanted to share that with you. Since Central State University is the nearest 1890 land-grant university to Michigan, African American farmers of Michigan often look to us to provide them with agriculture and marketing support. This project brings African American farmers in Michigan and Ohio together to implement climate-smart practices. We will utilize project resources to train farmers on how to use the latest technologies and practices. As we all know, when we go to grocery shopping, food prices have risen significantly. Additionally, we also need to understand that the use of manufactured fertilizer is also increasing. Our project addresses this situation by connecting limited resource vegetable growers with animal feedlots to use manure-based production systems that are also climate friendly. The goal is to produce healthier food that also conserves natural resources, consistent with Central State University's mission to produce a diverse population prepared for leadership, research, and service in Ohio and beyond. This project also provides opportunities for CSU students to become more engaged in agriculture through learning opportunities by working with extension agencies in the communities. Central State University is proud to lead this collaborative project that includes The Ohio State University, A&B Porteous Farms, Southeast Michigan Producers Association, and Wilmington College. Those individuals are here. Please stand to be recognized, who are your representatives. Thank you, thank you. As I close my remarks, it is always good to welcome the Chief, Chief Terry Cosby, on our campus because it usually means great news for Central State University. Consistent with this time of year, he always brings good tidings and gifts to Central State University. Chief Cosby has been a very dear and supportive friend of this university, and I learned that when I first arrived because he came to visit me earlier during my tenure here at Central State University. He was instrumental in Central State University receiving its land grant status, and he has continued to contribute significant resources. Under his leadership, NRCS has provided over $4 million to Central State University. Now, that's not including what's going to happen here today. You can applaud. That will be even a little more than what we have gotten in the past. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Chief Terry Cosby to Central State University.
Hey, good morning. You know, I kind of feel like I should have had this red suit on with this bag over my shoulder. And is there a chimney in the building that I can come down? But, it's great to be here. Dr. Thomas, it's great to see you. Thank you for the invitation to be here on campus. I bring you greetings from the President this morning, President Biden, also Vice President Harris, and also from Secretary Vilsack. You know, it's been a joy to work in this administration because of all the great things happening around this country. I became the 17th chief of NRCS back last year in May. Before that, I was here in Ohio as the state conservationist for a little over 16 years. And I want to welcome our state conservationist here this morning, John Wilson. John, please be recognized this morning. John was on my team here, and so when I left, I knew he would be the right person to take over that job. And one of the great jobs I have is picking state directors across the country. So that's the fun part of the job. So John, thank you for being here. Also, to the staff here, I came to Ohio from Idaho in 2005 as the director, and I was welcoming them on campus. It's been a great partnership. Then working with Dr. Garland, and we started talking about all the opportunities that a land grant status would bring to this university. And so we worked pretty hard to do this. And we finally made it happen. Secretary Vilsack was the secretary at that time with the Obama administration. And he was on campus here, and we made that announcement. And I tell you, it couldn't have happened to more of a very special place here in this state. And that status opened up all kind of opportunities for the university. When you talk about marketing, when you talk about research, when you talk about funding. And there were already 19 other land grant colleges across the country. And I'm a graduate of one, Alcorn State University in Mississippi. And I will tell Dr. Thomas that we always said, thank you for, we from Mississippi, me and John. We said, thank you for Alabama, because there's somebody a little bit poorer than us. I heard you say that this morning. I was listening. Yeah, he was thanking God for Mississippi. We thank God for Alabama. But, growing up, and I'm going to talk a little bit from a personal perspective, my father was one of those farmers in Mississippi that did not have an opportunity to participate in something like this. And that's why He didn't lose a farm, but he had to stop farming because when he went through the USDA doors, he was not welcome there, and he was not able to participate. We have some different opportunities today, and that's why this is so important, this type of funding to help universities, help farmers. And, oh, by the way, there's a component in here that talks about underserved farmers that has traditionally not been able to work through and benefit from some of these programs. And I just want to say that it's been great working here. And then you got to have these great partners. You know, I've known Brad for a long time, and from Porter's Farm. Brad, thank you for being here and being a supporter. Also from Ohio State, David Morrison, I see him here. Thank you. And we know that sometimes there's this competition, but I don't think it's here today. This is a partnership. And I know that Ohio State has been working very closely with Central State to work on projects. So thank you for that. Also, you have some farmers here, Southeast Michigan Producer Association. I don't know if anyone is here from them, but that's going to be great because this is all about farmers. And also Corey Cockerwell from Wilmington College. You know, I've worked pretty closely with Wilmington College. They were the provider of a lot of students when I first came to, because they were the only ones that were offering degrees for folks that could come work for USDA. And so we talked through a lot of this, and so Wilmington opened their doors up to the Central State students. And they were able to get the soils classes that they needed and were able to graduate and then come work for NRCS. So you can talk about a lot of collaboration here and people working together to make this happen. So thank you for being here from Wilmington College. It's been great. I want to talk a little bit about this award. This is exciting. You know, I get to go out and do these type things. We'll be in Memphis tomorrow and possibly Florida on Friday to talk through some of these. We got folks out doing this. But this is the good part of the job, when you can come bearing gifts. But let me tell you something. This is the easy part. The hard part is actually doing the work. So writing a proposal, getting it approved, that's easy. Now we talk about delivery, and that's going to be the key to all of this. You know, as part of this announcement that Secretary Vilsack made at Tuskegee University on Monday, there was a $325 million for 71 projects under this opportunity. And like I say, Secretary Vilsack was in Tuskegee. I think a lot of you know where Tuskegee is down in Alabama. And it's one of those historical black colleges, and it couldn't have happened at a better place. When we talk about partnerships for climate smart commodities, we talk about all of these things that it does. It helps producers implement climate smart practices. When we talk about climate smart practices, we're talking about all those things out there that this producer can put on their land that gives them another revenue stream. You know, they're going to get money for their commodities, but how do you do this, grow these crops in a climate smart environment? And then you can sell that. Just imagine walking into Walmart or wherever you do your shopping. You know, I'm cheap, so I'm at Walmart. I shouldn't have said that. But, and you pick up this shirt, and on the label, it says that the cotton that went in that shirt, or whatever that ingredient is in that shirt, was grown in a climate-friendly environment. That might make you buy that shirt compared to something else that does not say that. Just think about that. It also developed innovative approaches. We need to develop new technology. We need to have that new technology out there. And places like Central State can help us do that. And just think about the market opportunities. This is a global market, competitive market. If our farmers can say that their commodities or their livestock or their timber was grown in this environmentally friendly atmosphere, it'll be worth more on the open market. So other countries are asking us, how are we doing this? It's a competition. You know, we launched 2 funding opportunities here. The first pool was anywhere from $5 million to $100 million. We allocated those dollars out a few months ago, And then the second pool was a smaller pool from 250,000 to 5 million, which Central State applied for. You know, in both of these pools, equity, and sometimes we get a little nervous when we use that word, equity was heavily involved here because we have a lot of folks out there, and equity means a lot of things, folks. We're talking about small farms. We're talking about maybe tribal lands. We're talking about, it's broad. We might be talking about veteran farmers. We might be talking about underserved farmers or beginning farmers. Equity means a lot of things. We wanted to make sure that we opened the doors and folks could participate in something like this. So every one of these proposals has a component on the equity side. We want to make sure it involves small farmers. You know, one of the things I've done is I put on staff is someone to look at how to work with folks that might only want to plant 1/10 of an acre. And so that's where a lot of times urban agriculture comes in. And I want to introduce a young man here that is graciously agreed, and I know he's been through a couple meetings. He's an advisor, urban advisor to the Secretary, Vilsack, Dr. Carl Wallace. Thank you, sir. And I know I'll get in trouble here. Mother Dale is here too. So thank them both. He was just in D.C. last week, and you know they're providing valuable information to the Secretary on how we look at urban and urban production. So thank you, sir, for doing that. You know, when we put this proposal out, you can imagine the Secretary went over and he took $1 billion that came to NRCS and said, let's put this out there. We had over $20 billion worth of requests for $1 billion. So the Secretary went back and added another $2.8 billion. So we're talking $3.8 billion in these projects, and there's 141 of these across the country. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm challenging Central State as one of those 141. Think about all the new technology that can be driven from here, and all the farmers that are out there needing your assistance. So, like I say, the work just going to start. One of the other things that happened is, and I'm telling you about some of the things that's happened at NRCS. I think you all know about the Inflation Reduction Act, call it IRA. And that was a once in a generation, once in a lifetime. I've worked for USDA for 43 years. I have never seen this type of investment in agriculture. And this is pretty significant. And so Congress passed this, and they invested $20 billion in my agency. At any one time, NRCS that we work for, we have anywhere from around $8 billion worth of contracts with producers around this country. We pay out somewhere around $30 million a day to producers for doing conservation. And so with this new investment over the next 10 years, it's going to give us an opportunity to expand and broaden our horizon to look at how can we help agriculture. Folks, I think sometimes people forget that from a foundational standpoint, agriculture is the key to our existence and our survival. And we forget that because every time we go to the store, there's something there that we can get. But when we had this supply chain disruption, I think people started to understand how fragile this is. Agriculture plays a key part in that because everybody wants to eat at least 3 meals a day. I know I do. And you want to pay a good price for it. And so we saw what happened. And then the other thing we saw is in the urban setting is that when COVID came about and we had this supply chain disruption, things weren't in the grocery store. Folks in the urban area already had a problem because a lot of the grocery stores had packed up and moved out of those neighborhoods. So if you're going to get anything green or anything like that, it was bought at 7-Eleven. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with 7-Eleven. but you didn't have a lot of choice. So urban agriculture is very important as we move forward. Every acre counts. When we talk about water quality, when we talk about conservation, every acre counts. So we want to make sure that we're welcoming to anyone that's on this landscape that's growing anything. We want to make sure they're able to participate. Some of the things that this $20 billion investment is going to do is it's going to expand our capacity, which I just talked about. We need to streamline our program delivery. Look, being at the field office level and being in the state, I know a lot of times when you walk into these USD offices, it gets complicated the minute you walk in the door. You're feeling pretty good. You open the door, you walk in, and folks start throwing forms at you and acronyms and all these things. We got to get better at that. And so I've challenged our folks to look at our program delivery. How can we streamline that? How can we change it? How can we make it more inviting for folks to come in? And that's why we offer other opportunities on outreach for folks to go out and get people ready, to talk about what these forms are. You know, there's a lot of the society that's not very trusting, and there are reasons for that. And so when you start asking for Social Security numbers and IRS data, folks get a little nervous because of some of the things that have happened to them in the past. So how can we make these programs a little bit better? One of the keys is leveraging partnerships. You look at the partners that are going to be working here. That's what this is about, leveraging partnerships, because none of us can do this alone. We need others to help with this. We're going to advance equity, and then the most important part that I'm going to need all of your help with, how do we explain to the American public what they're getting for the dollar they're investing? That's something that I'm asking Central State. When people are sitting at their dinner table at 6:30 at night, and hopefully you all still do that. I know everybody get a plate and go somewhere else, but when you're sitting at the dinner table having these discussions, and that commercial comes on about the environment, how do we explain to folks the investment that their tax dollars are making in agriculture? So quantifications, verifications, and all those things, we need help understanding that and what resonates with the American public, because we want folks to keep investing in agriculture. You know, some of the things that we got to also consider, we got to consider grazing land. You know, out west, I do a lot on the range, a lot of range lands. We got to also look at our timber folks. How do we include them in this? Everything out there on this landscape we need to consider. You know, farmers are on the front line of this climate crisis, and our president has made a commitment that we are going to tackle this. And my agency, NRCS, is the one that's been challenged with a lot of these goals that's been set by the White House. And so we're up for the challenge. We're going to be there, but we need your help. Partnerships is a key. Central State has been a close partner of NRCS, mine, since I've been here, and we're going to continue. And I'm not going to tell you how much money they're getting. I'm going to let whoever is talking about this talk about these, because Dr. Thomas has shared with y'all how much money it is. He said something about it, but he, like I said, it was, this funding pool was $250,000 up to $5 million. It is a good investment, and Central State was one of those places that we knew could do the work. So thank you for the invitation to be here this morning. It's just great to be here. This is home. You know, I feel like all of y'all are family. So thank you all, and I wish you all a happy holiday. And I think the project sponsor is gonna come up and talk about the project a little bit, and I think he'll share some of that, some insights into what this project is and how it's gonna benefit the public and benefit agriculture, as well as the state of Ohio and Michigan. So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
I feel a little bit weird for not wearing a jacket and a tie, but I'm a fairly plain person, so this is what I usually appear. My name is Sid Dasgupta. I'm the project director of this. I'm very grateful for the award, as well as for the reviewers, and for being taking a chance on us. I'm grateful for that. So I'm still I consider myself still a fairly recent employee at Central State University. I started working here back in 2020, just about 3 years ago. And one of the reasons why I came here was to strengthen and improve the numbers and the viability of African American farmers in Ohio. I have worked in Kentucky before I came here, and between my colleagues and me, being funded through the USDA BFRDP program, we trained about 1,000 beginning farmers in Kentucky before coming here. And I knew that the Ohio African American farmer situation is different from Kentucky's. There's a lot of urban people here. There are fewer number of African Americans in rural areas. So we developed some beginning farmer training programs. So in this summer, our previous dean had a it's a Teams meeting with Dr. Katempe and me, where she charged us to develop this proposal. And so one of the first things that came to my mind is that how we can integrate the goals of this project, the goals of the RFP, to the situation with African American farmers in the state. And that was the way that the project was born. That was how it was born. I couldn't have done this. It was not just my effort. It was Dr. Katempe. He put in just as much effort as I did in putting the project together. And Dr. Katempe and I wouldn't have done this without our partners with Ohio State University, with Mr. Porteous there, and with Wilmington College, with SEMPA, which is a group out in southern Michigan, which is they're an interesting group, because I'm sorry that they're not here today, because they are a group of African American farmers operating close to the Ohio border, but they are more what I consider commercial farmers, working in a relatively rural environment, using the tractors and stuff like that, which is not something you normally see in an urban farming environment. You see more like tillers and walk-behind equipment. You don't see big tractors with implements and stuff like that. So I'm excited for SEMPA to participate, because we need to apply some of these climate-smart technological solutions to the rural farming situation and the urban farming situation, collect the data, and show what is working. One of the important things that what Wilmington College is going to do is what Chief Cosby mentioned at the beginning of his talk, is we're going to develop some value-added vegetable products with the Climate Smart label. We're going to do some willingness to pay studies, looking at what is the additional in terms of dollars per pound, what is the additional money people are willing to pay to have that label there, that is a certified label that this food product was raised using these types of technologies. So, and then there is the outreach component. So there is a research component, and the outreach component is where we actually go and train farmers how to apply these technologies. One of the important things that we're going to train them is doing the plant petiole analysis, where you take the sap out of the plants and then analyze the sap to see what kind of nutrients that the plant is lacking, and what do we need to add to the plants or to a row or to a field to increase so that the plant has just enough nutrients, because oftentimes what farmers are doing is they're adding too much nutrients in the soil, okay? And that's not a climate smart thing to do, okay? Because you have nutrient leaching and things like that. And it's wasteful for money-wise too, because fertilizer is very expensive. So that's one of the things we're going to teach them is kind of reduce the fertilizer application and apply exactly what is needed. So that's pretty much all I have to say, and I want to end this my little talk here by letting you know that we do have a van waiting behind that door. So afterwards, if you guys would like to go. I'm hard of hearing. Huh? Oh, award amount. Oh, it's only $4.9 million. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, I forgot to mention that. I thought that would be kind of important, right? Okay. So the van is waiting there. If you want to take a look at some of our facilities, like our aquaponics facilities on campus, some of the research and extension going on, you're welcome to join us. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you again to our partners for being here today. At this time, we're going to enter into a brief Q&A for the media, and we're opening the floor to those questions now. No pressure. Chief Cosby, would you come up, please?
You know, and congratulations on this $4.9 million award. Very well deserved. I know that no rock will be overturned, you know, just getting this done. When you start talking about climate smart commodities, you know, our agency is 90 years old, 93 years old. And we have, for the life of the history of this agency, and I think you all know about the Dust Bowl and what happened in Kansas, and it came across the East, and the Congress was in session, and this dust storm hit Washington, D.C., and that's how this whole thing started back in 31, 32. And from that time, we worked very closely with our researchers, our research arm is ARS, Agricultural Research Service, and also the universities, to look at practices. And so what we've done is we've identified practices that we have. We have close to 170 practices within our, within our system. And so what we've done is we've gone to look at and say, okay, which of these practices will provide the best climate benefits? We also have talked about when we look at greenhouse gas emissions and also carbon sequestration, how do we help with that? So we've identified a suite of practices within NRCS. There's close to 30 of them right now, and we're adding every day. How do we quantify and how do we verify that those practices have that? And so we know what they will do. And that's under our environmental conservation programs. When we start talking about our CSP, conservation stewardship, there's close to 100 practices. So we have a team that's worked very hard to look at these practices and say, these are the ones that we're going to recommend to producers. Now, what the beauty about these proposals is that those are the ones that we're recommending. The universities and the folks that are receiving these funds, they're going to be able to help us develop new ones. That's going to be the beauty of this. Is there something that we're missing? Is there something that we have not considered? Are there other practices out there that have climate benefits? When you start talking about practices, you start talking about conservation tillage, you start talking about no-till farming, you start talking about cover crops, you talk about nutrient management, reduction of nutrients. There's an array of those. And so we've identified those, and so we're going to be recommending that to farmers. We also have our traditional programs that we run, and John will be running those here in Ohio that'll be doing the same thing. But we measure those in a different method. But we're trying to figure out how do we do these measurements and then explain it to the public because of this investment. So it'll be a lot of the practices that we have already been using, plus the ones that's going to be developed from this new technology that these 141 proposals will be using these funds for. And remember, this is almost over $3 billion investment into new technology, new innovation, and all those things, as well as outreach, and also getting practices on the ground.
Any other follow-up questions?
You know, I think that's going to be different for every farm. We're going to be out there working with landowners, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail here, but I will tell you that every farm is different, and so that's where this conservation plan comes in. And when you get a group of professionals to go out and walk the land with these farmers, and I said every acre counts. Our folks, we walk every acre, and we look at every acre because every acre could use a different type treatment. And so we make recommendations, we give alternatives, and we try to meet the objective of the landowner. And sometimes we learn from the landowner when we're on these farms on things that are innovative and things that we should be considering. But we make these recommendations. So once that happens, we have other programs where we're going to be looking at how do we measure this from a climate standpoint, from a greenhouse gas emission standpoint. When you're putting covers on digesters, or when you have these systems on these farms that where methane is going right into the air, put cover on them to do that. You put covers on roofs or these feedlots, or when we install these practices. So every one of these different practices is going to have a different climate benefit. Something that's going to be happening out there, we have to figure this out. A lot of the small farmers might only do one practice, but some of the folks that have been in this for a while are on bigger acres. They may bundle these practices and do 4 or 5 at one time. So every farm is going to be different. The benefit is going to be different. But when you add up all the benefits from all of these, I think we have the solution to a lot of our climate problems. Folks, I spent a lot of time out west. I know, you know, we have all these forest fires, and we have response teams, and we have a lot of responsibility for forest fires. I was just in New Mexico not long ago. There was a 300,000 acre fire there, and tremendous fire, loss of homes, loss of infrastructure, loss of timberland. You know, a lot of this is climate change. When you talk about all the severe floods we're having across here, we just had one in Kentucky. We have response teams. We're on the ground there trying to figure out how do we do this. When you talk about drought, we have significant drought. Ohio is part of this. Folks, when we look at this drought thing, it's a little bit scary. When you look out across the west, when you talk about Lake Mead, that's the water supply for the cities out there as well as for agriculture. When you get into the Salton Sea, when you start talking about that, we have operations all across this country trying to figure this out. When you combine all this together, agriculture can solve a lot of this. Now, when you start talking about emissions and what's happening on agriculture, only produces a small amount of this. But it's been portrayed that agriculture is the problem. It's not. It's on a small amount of emissions from agriculture when you look at the whole. But we got to do our part. And that's what we're trying to do here. I'm pretty passionate about this. I can stay here and talk to you about it all day.
All right, thank you. And then do you have any specific questions for the project leader? Dr. Dasgupta, can you come up, please? Or you can answer from there. All right, thank you so much for attending this event. We really appreciate it. And